Nowadays are very predictable. What are they going to do in a hotel? Are they going to get a reservation for a table in the restaurant? Are they going to order room service? All these things can be included and managed by a digital innovation. So what is the solution? I welcome on stage Martin Sponholtz, the CEO and founder of Aeroguest.
All right, thank you very much. So I'm here today to talk about this digital guest journey and also how we can connect this to loyalty. So how can hotels use this digital guest journey to also build loyalty as well? A little bit about myself. So I'm here actually with my team here today. So I've set up this company called Aeroguest and collected a strong team of developers essentially to really build an advanced platform for digitalization of the guest journey. And here today I have Max with me as well, and also Torben. And Max, he's even German speaking, so he's really easy to talk to as well. Myself, just a little bit about myself. So I'm a computer science guy. That's what I studied originally. And I've been working with software for 15 years. I've actually been working for a lot of the big companies in Denmark. I've been consulting for many years. And I was actually working for Mobile Pay. I was working with Mobile Pay in the largest Danish bank when I came up with these digitalization ideas. So that's where I'm from. Today, everything is going mobile. That's what's happening right now. So travelers are going mobile, and this is just across the board. And you can really see this with bookings these days already. So something like 60% of bookings happen on mobile devices in 2016. And in 2019-20, something like 90%, 95% of bookings are happening on mobile devices. So already at the stage of bookings, travelers are really taking these mobile devices and using them. And this is just continuing. And we can also see this in the airlines and the airports today, how people are just using mobile devices to check into the flights. So, of course, this is also going to happen in hospitality, that guests use these mobile devices more and more during their stay. And again, looking at airlines and airports, so we've already been through this process now. So it started something like 10, 15 years ago, that guests, they really started using mobile devices for self-service check-in. And I mean, today, imagine it, if you're traveling through an airport, do you really want to stand in line all these places like you did 10, 15 years ago? I think most people would say no. And it's reached a level today where it's something like 80% of travelers that are going through airports that have already managed this self-service check-in 24 to 48 hours before traveling with the airline. So that's just a major thing. We're really at a major tipping point that we've already crossed in that area. And you know, that's how it's used. So 24 hours, they self-service check-in through an app with the airline. They come to the airport, they go directly and hit security. They're patted down, and then they walk into the plane. That's more or less how travel happens today. In the same time frame with hotels, almost nothing has happened. Very, very little has happened. There has been some activities in the past few years where we're beginning to do self-service check-in in hotels and hospitality as well. But it's very little when you look at what's happened in the rest of the travel industry. And also makes sense in the way that airlines and airports have often been a little bit ahead of hospitality as well. So this is really what we're looking into. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk a little bit about a model for basically marketing and sales. So, you know, the classical model for this sort of thing is the marketing funnel. And the marketing funnel, you know, this is what has been used in marketing and sales for the past 50 years, something like that, is the idea that, you know, you reach a very broad group, you create some interest with a smaller group, and you sort of go through this funnel, where in the end you have some customers that appreciate your brand and your product and your company, and then they buy the product. So this is the old terminology, is the marketing funnel. Increasingly today, companies are moving more and more over into this other model, this newer model of how marketing and sales is handled. And the idea here is to start looking at it as an infinite loop. Because, I mean, that's really how it is. So when you're doing marketing and sales, It's not like when a customer buys a product that they stop having any interaction with the company. I mean, they continue having interaction with the company, and they continue building this loyalty or not having loyalty to the company and the product. And this is essentially what this model is trying to capture. And something that's very, very interesting is that the old concept of the marketing funnel is this really cold, hard sales. So this is the sales that is done to customers that you do not know, that do not know the company or the product. And that's really, really hard sales at that stage. And 2/3 of the touch points where you can actually affect your customers and really create loyalty, where they really bond to the product and the company, these are actually on the other side where they're actually experiencing the product, where they're actually using the product. And this is very, very interesting if you look at this in hospitality, because there has been so much money and energy that has been spent on the cold, hard part of the sales, and actually quite little that has been spent on the actual warm touch points that actually where the guests really interact with the products. Because in hospitality, this is when they're staying at the hotel. So this is actually when they're in destination at the hotel. So this is just to underline the point. So if we're looking at online travel agencies like Booking.com or Hotels.com or something like that, that's really the cold part of this marketing process. It's not the warm part. Because you would book a stay at a hotel, but you don't actually experience the hotel while you're booking at Booking.com or Hotels.com. So if we try to look at it in this way, we can see that for airlines and hotels, the process is sort of the same. So you would book either directly with the airline or the hotel or through an OTA. And then once you've booked, well, then you actually have the stay, or you actually experience the product or the airline or the hotel. So if we look at it again with respect to this model, the booking is the awareness, consideration, evaluation, and purchase, whereas the actual I'm having a little clicker problem here. Let me see. Okay, great. All right, yeah, there's just a little delay. So this is where they actually enjoy and bond and advocate the product. So this is where the customers actually use this product. And again, for hotels, this is during the stay. So this is when they walk in the front door of the hotel. This is when they're staying in the room of the hotel and interacting with the staff of the hotel and so on. And this is really quite interesting if you start thinking about this in a digital guest experience way. Because if you have a digital guest experience enabled at a hotel, then you are really able to connect to the guests during the stay and build this loyalty concept with the guests. Let's see if we can move on here. This is just to sort of outline where we are today with airlines and hotels. So airlines, they have already really taken this in. They've already been building apps and self-service for a number of years. And so today they're better at handling these touch points, these digital touch points, which is check-in and stay. Whereas hotels, to a very large degree, have not enabled this yet, have not really taken in this digital guest journey, and are not able to affect these touch points with the guests. At least not in a digital sense, you could say. So again, the whole idea here with regards to the model that I showed previously, so not thinking of this as a marketing funnel, but thinking of it as an infinite loop, where the customers continuously build loyalty with a product. Well, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to keep them in this warm side of the loop. So we're trying to keep these repeat customers, these loyal customers, where we interact with them in these digital touch points, and where they keep booking with the same product and the same company. That's basically the idea. And what could these touch points be for a hotel? So booking the stay is, of course, a touch point, which is what we really use a lot today. But there's also check-in, arrival at the hotel or room, hotel experiences, and check-out. These are all touch points where you can really affect the guests staying at a hotel. Now let's take check-in. So again, I represent a company, Aeroguest, where we're doing digitalization of the guest journey. So we're looking at this in a new way, you could say. So what needs to be handled during the check-in process at a hotel? Well, we need to find the hotel. The guest just needs to find the hotel. I mean, this is a completely universal thing. So I think we all know that when we're traveling somewhere in some foreign city, we don't really know, where we are, and we don't really understand the location of the hotel. So this is a place where we can really help the guest. Of course, also settling the payment is something that needs to be done. And for probably something like 60 to 70% of the cases of guests checking into hotels, there is some sort of outstanding that needs to be settled on check-in. Then we have the sign of the registration card. So most places it's a legal requirement that the guest actually signs the terms and conditions of the stay. So this is also something that needs to be done. We have passport verification. So we're in the EU right now, and here it's really only required to get a passport number from the guest. But if you're traveling to other places in the world, it would often be a requirement to do some sort of facial verification. So this is, for example, the case in Singapore. And room key. So, of course, we need a key for the room. And this is one of the places where things haven't really changed all that much for the past 30, 40, 50 years. So still today, we receive these plastic cards, and then we're able to go up to the room. Now, something that's interesting here is that all of this happens when you're standing at the reception. So you have to stand in line, and you have to wait for the other guests that are checking in to be able to handle all of these concepts. But actually, probably guests would want to handle this 24 hours to 48 hours before arrival. This is really the place where it would be much more convenient and easy for them to do this whole process. And again, if you think about it, if you look at airlines and airports, this is how it happens today. So for 80% of these airline travelers, they are actually checking in 24 hours to 48 hours before the stay. So how could we handle that? Well, with location, we can, of course, show the hotel on a map. So if we have this digital guest journey, it's possible for us to find the hotel on a map and be able to easily find this destination that we have. And we can even offer transport. So this is a great example of this touch point where it's possible with a digital guest journey to better bond with the customers and give them something which is value-adding during their journey. We could also help them use all sorts of payment methods, and this is something that is gaining increasing traction these days. So there's really a lot happening technologically. I mean, just think of blockchain and Bitcoin and all these things. So now, I'm not talking about going that advanced into this, but just being able to support other payment methods than putting a credit card into a terminal. And if you have a digitalized guest journey, then it's very, very easy to take a very large technological leap and be able to support many, many more payment methods for all sorts of tourists traveling the world. So let me give an example of this, which is Alipay. So in Europe, we have a lot, more and more Chinese tourists traveling to Europe. And they don't necessarily want to use a Visa or a MasterCard, because for them, it's much more convenient to use something like Alipay. So this is a good example of how there are various new payment methods being introduced around the world, and how tourists would like to use what is most convenient for them. I myself am from Denmark, where something like 95% of payments are handled by mobile pay, or 95% of the citizens of Denmark are at least on mobile pay. So that's also something that could be supported. Then we have a couple of situations here. So sign registration and passport verification. So this is something that is really annoying as a tourist, especially if you're a business traveler and you have to do this all the time. So if you have a digitalized guest journey, well, then we understand the profile of the customer. They've already signed up for this app or this platform, and that now it's possible for us to use this verified profile that they have to very easily handle these registration cards with a digital signature and also a passport. So this is something which also makes it much, much more convenient and better for the guest. And finally, we have room key here. There we go. So we can give the guest staying at a hotel, today we can give them a digital key. This is possible today. It has been possible for the past 2 or 3 years using Bluetooth technology. And so we're at a stage now where it's no longer necessary to receive a plastic card, but we can actually check in remotely to the hotel while we're at the airport, and we receive a digital key into the app. And once we arrive at the hotel, we can actually go directly up to the room and we can begin our stay. We can unlock the door with our phone. And it's even possible, as I've outlined here, to locate the room. So we could build into this platform that not only can you find your way from the airport to the hotel, but we can actually show you how you walk in the front door, go down the hall, take the elevator up to the 4th floor, and find room 404. This can even be integrated with Google Maps today. So that can become very, very advanced. Just a little bit about push notifications. So something that is really fantastic in having a native app, in having guests use a native app, is it gives some more opportunities to be able to contextually hit them with various kinds of notification or marketing. And this is something that guests really find relevant and attractive. It's something that they really like to use. So we've been running for the past 6 months with Aeroguest, and all of the guests that we have on our platform, they find this fantastic. They love this because it's useful to them. So it is at least useful to them if you hit them in a contextual way where the information makes sense for them. And this is much, much more powerful than emails. Because emails, honestly, I mean, a lot of emails today, they're just spam. And a lot of people are used to thinking of emails in that way. So this is a much more powerful way to target guests. And it's something that's only possible to do with a native app. So it must be done with an iOS or an Android app installed directly on the guest's phone. Okay, moving a little over into data and insights. So, with a digital guest journey, it's really possible to get a lot of insights on the guests staying at hotels. It can become quite powerful in that way. And we're increasingly in Aeroguest looking at key metrics for hotels and being able to support that as well. So most hotels would find something like revenue per available room as one of the most central metrics there is, because it essentially tells it tells the hotel what money they're making on this hotel. So how much money are we making on these rooms that we have? Essentially, it's calculated as what are we selling the rooms for, and how many of the rooms have we sold. And hotels are quite good at this. Hotels are quite good at RevPAR because there has been so much investment into the booking side and the channel managers for the past 10 or 15 years. But if you're thinking about the other side of things, when people are actually staying at the hotel, so how good are we at handling revenue management and increasing revenue for guests that are actually staying at the hotel? And this is a different metric. This is revenue per occupied room. So for all of these rooms that we have occupied today, all of the guests staying at the rooms that we have occupied today, how much revenue are we making on that, and how can we push that up? And something which is very, very interesting that can be done here is you could actually show a graph which is what is the revenue per occupied room for the guests that are not using the digital guest journey, and what is the revenue per occupied room for the guests that are using the digital guest journey. And hopefully, of course, the second one would be higher, and you would be able to push it upwards by doing all sorts of initiatives, push messages, or giving various kind of in-destination opportunities or upselling rooms or things like that, and in that way increase the revenue for the guests staying at the hotel. Let's move on a little bit here. It seems I'm having trouble with the. There we go. So just to give an example of this, so we're working together with a Borkner hotel in Copenhagen. So this is it's actually called Hotel Denmark. It's the name of the hotel is Hotel Denmark, and it was just renovated some 6 months ago, and they added a rooftop terrace. So something which is quite obvious is that in this digital guest journey, you could of course show the guests this opportunity to go up to the rooftop terrace. If you go up there at 6 or 7 o'clock, you'll be able to see fireworks out over Tivoli, which is a theme park in Copenhagen, and you can also have a drink while you're on the rooftop terrace. So this is a good example of pushing this sort of added benefit, added value to the guests staying at the hotel. See if I can click on here. This is just another example of this. So at the same hotel, they have a signature rum bar. So this is just introducing the concept to the guests that we have this great rum bar where you can come by and have a drink later on today. And let's move on here. Okay, now we're at checkout. So I'm just going to go quite quickly over this. But on checkout, we have payment, and we have to leave the key. So if we could click a couple of times here. Settle payment, and we have the key as well. And this is where the door lock integration is really fantastic, because when we have this digital key offering, well, then there's no plastic card anymore, and the guest can actually just leave the hotel. And I think this is something that we all know that is quite useful, because when you're leaving the hotel, you often are busy, and you have to maybe catch a plane at the airport and so on. So it's great if you can just, at your own convenience, just take off from the hotel. And this is probably the most fantastic thing of everything. So now that we've enabled the digital guest journey, and the guest has been using some sort of digital solution in their own phone has been used for the digital guest journey, well, they'll bring this app with them home. And this is very, very powerful because today, most bookings, 60 to 70%, are happening on the online travel agencies. And then the guests are staying at the hotel, essentially sleeping in a bed. And then when they leave the hotel, they don't really bring anything with them. I mean, maybe they could bring some sort of flyer or any sort of material that the reception has, but that's not very effective. But if we have a digital guest journey, well, then they're actually going to bring this app with them home. And after they leave the hotel, you can continuously, continue to target them with various initiatives and selling new stays at the hotel as well. Let's see if we can move on here. And this is also a fantastic opportunity to convert these guests into loyal customers. So they can join the hotel's loyalty program. In Aeroguest, this is not something that we have in the platform today, but we are going to build in the upcoming time. So we are going to start supporting hotels' own loyalty programs. So, and this is essentially the same idea as bookings. We have a wallet concept where it's possible to have bookings across various hotels. And in the same way, it could be possible to have loyalty programs in a wallet concept as well. And I think it's something which would be very, very effective because you're leaving a hotel, you've had a fantastic stay, and now you're offered the opportunity to join the hotel's loyalty program as well. And you could, of course, book your next stay directly with the hotel. So they bring the app with them home, they have the loyalty program, and it's possible to book the next stay with the hotel directly. All right, let's see. And bringing us back to this, this model again, this customer infinity loop. So thinking of this, not as a funnel, so a one-time thing where we sell a product, but instead thinking of this as a continuous journey that the guest has with a product or a company, then what we're trying to do is we're trying to keep them on the right-hand side of this customer infinity loop. So where they are a loyal customer of the product and the brand, and they continuously use this product and brand. That's essentially what we are trying to do here. All right, and this is really the old way of doing loyalty. So this is the past. So this is what we've been doing for the past 20 or 30 years. This is not the future. We're departing from this. So I think we also know this from other situations that increasingly we don't have cash with us and we don't have all sorts of cards for all sorts of things. So in this way, we're going to move into a more digital way of supporting loyalty in the future. Let's see if we can shift away from this. Yes. And this is just again to mention sort of this newsletter approach of marketing. So spamming loyalty customers or clients with emails. It's also, I mean, it is effective. Of course, it is effective, but there maybe is also better ways of doing this. So if we have a lot of insight and a lot of data on the guests, on the customers we've had, we can do this in a more contextual way, and we can target the guests in a better way with a mobile device and a mobile app as well. And finally, I would just like to say that there are just so many apps today. There are just so many apps. There are millions of apps. We don't need more apps. So there are many hotels in the world today. And the approach is not that every single hotel builds their own app. That just doesn't work. And it's not something that guests are interested in either. Guests are not interested in having 100 or 1,000 apps on their phone for hotels or for airlines or whatever. They would much rather have a few apps that really are powerful and can do many things for them. So this is definitely the approach that we have at Aeroguest. We have a single app, single platform approach. And it's something that the guests, the customers, find very, very valuable, this idea of a digitalized check-in and also the idea of a wallet where all of the bookings can be in for various hotels and also for various loyalty programs as well. So this is where it becomes quite attractive and powerful for the guests. All right, I think that was it. So major turnout, so thanks very much for coming and seeing my presentation today. It was really fantastic being able to speak to you today. And I have 5 minutes actually on the clock here. So if you have questions, feel free to ask.